So thanks a lot for having me here. It's a pleasure as always. Welcome to the panel AI Here and Now. My name is Sebastian. I'm managing partner of Acton Capital. Acton is a Munich-based venture fund investing into growth companies, startups. And for very long, we have been investing in software as a service companies over a large variety of industries. What has changed over the last couple of years is that many of those companies actually use AI now to enhance their value proposition. So unsurprisingly, venture capital investment in that space in Europe has increased tenfold over the last decade. Now actually 20% of all venture money in Europe goes into AI companies. So beyond the hype of generative AI, AI has found its way into many, many applications in industries, across very different industries. So this panel features 3 founders of companies that have entrenched AI as core of the software products for offering their clients solutions to very complex problems at unprecedented speed and accuracy. So let me introduce the first panelist, David Hahn. He's the co-founder and CEO of Remberg, a Munich-based leader in industrial AI, helping industrial companies solve asset downtime and labor shortages. In 2022, he was included in the Forbes 30 under 30 list in the field of industry and manufacturing and has since been active as a thought leader in the field of AI and Industry 4.0. Please give David a warm welcome.
Hallo, schön, dich zu sehen.
Our second panelist, Thorsten Heilig, is the founder and CEO of Paretos, a pioneering decision intelligence platform used by large multinational companies and SMEs. He's author of the book Decision Intelligence, Transform Your Team and Organization with AI-Driven Decision-Making, and was recently named one of the 100 most influential German business people for 2024 by the renowned magazine W&V. Welcome on stage.
Wir haben schon Hallo gesagt.
So last but not least, Felix Hoffmann, the co-founder and CEO of 7 Learnings, a Berlin-based company specializing in AI-driven optimization services for retailers. With a background as a product owner at Zalando, where he managed the global price optimization algorithm, Felix has extensive experience in pricing strategies and data analysis. Welcome on stage. So Thorsten, let me start with you. Maybe could you briefly describe what Paretos actually is doing and what is the role of AI in your solution?
Yeah, sure. So we're a so-called decision intelligence company. So I mean, what we also saw recently, right? It's like one thing is to ask for information. The other thing is like to really bring it into actions, into application. And our space is all around the planning and operations. When you look at planning and operations in organizations, mainly larger organizations, it's super complex and there are tons of decisions every day. And even if you don't change a plan, it's an active decision, right? Because you don't change that plan on this given day. And all these like operational recurring decisions, so we've built a platform to use a different bunch of AI models for that to, at the end, we call it no more bad decisions, right? So at the end, making better decisions.
So you work with large corporates like Otto Group and Edeka. Tell me a bit about how is it working with those more traditional companies? How is it implementing solutions for them? Are there any do's and don'ts you may share with the audience when talking to those large players?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, most of the companies, when I look over the last years, right, it changed a lot. Like since 1.5 years, it is a complete hype topic in nearly every organization, right? So it's like, it's not the question if they want to do something, it's more like they ask themselves and also us, like, okay, how to do it. So it is really more about application. So this is very good. Like, of course, there's like a bit of AI washing, like when you look at general, like everyone says, okay, we have AI, that's maybe a bit of a challenge, right? But when you work with those clients, it's super cool to see that they really want to change something. But in exactly what I said, to change something, there's also this word change, right? So it is a technological challenge, and we are there to solve it or to help to support them. But at the same time, we see, especially in large organizations, more traditional organizations, that it's a big transformation at the same time. And I think this is sometimes a bit overlooked in the past when it comes to AI projects. So this, when I think of those companies, like they are very open to also change a lot of like processes and behavior in their organization, which is extremely crucial to do, yeah, for successful.
Do you have the impression that you have to overcome sort of a fear factor? Like there's so much talk about AI, what you can do, the good and bad, or as you say, it's more and more more common?
Well, I think it's no. I think there's always like a bit like the idea, oh, do they have they fear to lose their job or whatever? But to be very honest, I mean, when you're a planner and your Excel file loads like 45 minutes and you go every morning, drink some coffee, I mean, that's reality, right? Because like it's super complex. It's not the part of the job they love, right? So you can really unlock, as with every transformation, it may be that it automates processes, that's right, but also it unlocks a lot of potential to really do more iterative planning, right? To do, for example, when we had one client, they said, yeah, we do like the replanning only twice a year because it takes us, I guess it was 9 weeks with 3 people or something to do replanning, right? For a really complex, different warehouses and like logistics around the world. And now they can do it every month, right? Which makes them more agile and more, at the end, it has a strong effect for their P&L, of course.
Perfect. Felix, your main customer group are retailers. So tell me a bit about what you're doing and, of course, the role of AI in it.
Yeah, we started with pricing. So the role of AI in a pricing decision is basically you have a product. Let's maybe take this glass. You can sell it, the glass of water for €2, for 2.50, for €3. And AI can give you a prediction upfront what the impact is, what it would be, how much would you sell at €2, at 2.50, at €3. And then yeah, you can do that on scale. At Zalando, we had 10 million products in 28 countries, so it's like a couple of million predictions like that. And then you can have an interface, more like a Google Maps interface, where you say, okay, where as a company do you want to go? What do you want to achieve in terms of growth, in terms of profitability? And then the AI is basically giving you decisions on the glass, but also on the other 10 million products. What is the best price that gives you the growth or gets you to the targets where you want to go?
So millions of products obviously involve probably billions of data points across different departments. How difficult is it to get access to the data, and especially how difficult is it to get clean data? At the end, it's garbage in, garbage out. So what is your experience on that?
No, I think companies get much, much better now doing that. And most of them have some sort of access to like a cloud database. They are on AWS, Google, or something like that. And then it's not that difficult to get started, actually.
Okay. David, you help, among others, manufacturers like Osram or Liqui Moly optimizing the machinery. So you really implement AI on the shop floor, where typically very traditional, obviously, layout. Tell us about more what your solution does and what was the disruption you brought through AI?
Yeah, so Remberg is helping industrial companies manage their assets. So if you talk to a German mid-market company, they mostly don't, first of all, know what the term asset means. So it is an equipment, machinery, but look at this building. I mean, the media equipment, the elevators, we have physical assets everywhere. And what's very clear is that we don't have enough people in the blue-collar space who can deal with these assets when they are broken. And so we don't have enough people who want to travel somewhere to fix something, like a field service technician. We don't have enough maintenance technicians. We just don't have enough. And that's not going to change that quickly. So I think that's, as a techno-optimist, so to say, AI is a very helpful technology that can help us mitigate that labor shortage we have in the industrial segment. And one of the examples that we do is like you first of all have to start helping such a company know what kind of assets do I have in a modern solution, right? So you just have to see, I have these machines, I have these elevators, and so that's what the first thing we do. And then we associate more information with each of those assets, like a machine that we saw. Just the example with the agriculture machine, just knowing what the machine is won't help you, but you need the manuals, you need to import maintenance protocols from the past and other things. And these are the two things that we already help them with bringing all the assets in a modern solution. So you have a mobile device, every single thing gets a QR code. And now imagine, this speaker breaks down. I have absolutely no idea how to fix it, but I scan a QR code and I speak or text with the speaker, and the manual is the context that is being given to AI, plus the former maintenance protocols and so on. And just like in the example, it then answers me what to do in the respective language that I have asked it with. And that's just a very simple use case that is now being applied, for instance, at Osram, Tier 1 Automotive, where they have a lot of people who don't speak German, they speak Polish or then Turkish, and the manuals and the knowledge is in German, but they can ask in Turkish and it's answering in Turkish. And then second step, and then I'm done, it's like, that's just the asking part. When you remember Colin's slide, that was ask anything, and now we're moving from ask anything to do anything. So you can also ask it, hey, dear speaker, can you create a maintenance plan for me? So I am being reminded next time something pops up. That's an agentic then action. So we're going from AI assistance to AI action in the industrial segment. That's what I believe is for me, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be at the forefront industrial AI applications. Amazing.
Can I interrupt there?
Sure.
Because what I was missing in this do something is, like, you don't just want to do something, you want to optimize. You want to do something in an optimal fashion, and that is completely missing, right? This whole piece of optimization is missing, right? That's the problem. Like, okay, LLMs are trying to figure out how to solve problems, but like, we're working on how to solve something in an optimal way. And it's really a different direction. I think LLMs will never compete with our product. Will never be better and more efficient and more optimal than what we're doing. So I think we have to understand, like, this LLMs have some use cases in some areas, like in conversations, for example, or as chatbots, but there's thousands of use cases where they won't perform really well, and there's a lot of space for other solutions. I think that's really also missing in the media quite often, honestly.
I agree. Can I say something about that?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I totally agree with you, but let's take a simple example about this maintenance plan, right? So imagine you have this building, and for every single asset, someone has to sit down, go into every manual, and then look at what is the yearly, bi-yearly, and 3-yearly things that we need to do. It's human years going into a very repetitive and also, frankly, stupid process. So now you just upload assets, you upload the documents, and you tell AI, go into each PDF and get out the information and do it. It's a very easy, repetitive process that can be completely automated with AI, and that's what we are talking about. I don't have to optimize how the maintenance plan is being written, because it's in itself a very easy task to do. It's just writing out cycles, done. Everyone can do it who can read. But that's something where you don't necessarily optimize the exact things that have to be done. You just replace a stupid, repetitive process with AI. You know, and I think there's a difference where we.
It's almost like a philosophical question on, like, how would the future look like? Would at some point of time the LLMs, the generic models, become so good that they actually can cope with whatever they need to do? Or if you take your 3 companies, will it be very specific solutions to very specific use cases, but then optimized in a way that it's the most efficient, the cheapest, the fastest?
I mean, I think, first of all, I feel a bit, when we think of the internet, right? For me, AI is a bit like the internet. Like, I mean, you have like tons of use cases, and at the moment, I feel like this is an evolution where we really find more different use cases, and it really got in several categories, which is good, but the categories should not be named with the technology. For me, LLM is a technology, right? And by the way, it's super funny. It's for me the first time that like such a detailed technology name like got made it into management rooms, right? They all say, yeah, we can build an LLM. I was, wow, okay. You know what that means? Like in the beginning, I think, I don't know now. But I think this is super important, right? And this is one thing. So the use case has to fit to the technology, nothing new. It's a bit boring, but I think this is super important, right? And when you speak around the future, I think this is the first question. So I got a lot of, for example, management letters to like, hey, this is our AI strategy, can you just look over it or whatnot? And then I guess like 50 to 60% of those management letters, it's like, okay, whatever you do, do it with AI. And for me, this is it's a bit too easy, right? To say like, look, now AI is the answer to everything. Like, so look at the use case, this is one. And second, measure it, right? Like there's this new study, I think it was yesterday in the Handelsblatt, more than 60% of companies don't have a strategic monitoring, neither a KPI to really check like the outcome of the AI project. And to be honest, we see that also with prospects, right? When we go in, I mean, we are planning and operations, like it's super numbers driven. And I agree, like many use cases is not LLM, but this is for me like we are a layer above, right? Really in the application. And then we say, okay, what is the effect on the bottom line? What is the really savings, right? And they say, yeah, we don't know. We need to have better accuracy. So I think this is super important that we also check use case and B, a use case, and B, really look at the outcome at the end for efficiency, P&L, whatever it is, right? Or
Felix, I think you mentioned that you can, of course, run A/B tests. So you check one pricing strategy against the other, like the normal one that the company is choosing against the one that your AI actually is choosing, and then compare the results. So
I think that's also why coming from that. So basically, we have like challenges, right? So we have us competing against a different pricing strategy, mostly competitor-driven pricing. And sometimes we have 50% more profit or 300% more profit. On average, it's like 10, 15% more profit in these tests. So you actually prove the impact, and it's quite dramatic. And yeah, I think I really want to touch on that. Like I think the approach to AI, of course, like if your boardroom asks the question, how can we use LLMs? That's just the wrong question, you know? I mean, the question should be like, what are your problems in the first place? And then what are the most important problems? And then when you have figured out what's your problem, then you can search for a solution. And then you can look for different solutions in that area. And for retailers, that's what Gartner is saying. Pricing is the #1 use case for AI, because they basically figured that out, right? Because it's easy to implement and it's easy to measure also.
I fully agree with this, but we have a lot of budget out there in the organizations that specifically target applications in Gen AI. And there's now also an economic question, how can you untap budgets, of course, in organizations? But I totally agree, and I'm also recommending then when you talk to them, what are the use cases? Sometimes they just don't know. So they don't know the use cases. And then you are basically, you as a solution provider, your responsibility is to first of all say, here's what worked at that company, that company, that company. Is that something on your priority list? And if not, then I typically have a company that I can refer to. But for instance, we also have cases where we adjust the wrong solution. And I think that is something, especially as a startup company, where saying no is super critical, because then if you're trying to make your solution fit into something that they have a budget for, then that's the path to death, right? And this is one thing that I want to cover. So use cases like the one we just saw. Who of you would have thought that OpenAI has a solution for manufacturing machinery applications with spare parts searching? So I didn't know about it, so, but maybe you all did. So the point is, we will see a lot of agentic AI, but embedded into solutions that we already have. And the most dominant ones are the solutions where we already have cloud deployed, like CRMs, customer service software, where cloud penetration rate is high, and then you just embed it into the solutions that you already have. And that's where I think as startups, it's a hard time, because those applications will see penetration rate pretty high. And then as a vertical application provider, you have to find your sweet spot, right? So I think that is something I wanted to highlight. So for us in our segment, industrial, a lot of things are not in the cloud yet. So you don't have this sales force where everything's already in the cloud. So this is where niche vertical applications, I think, will be the next wave of unicorns. So how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's different. You're right. Yeah. I think, of course, it's also a risk, because you can. It's easier to put on this interface, but at the same time, for us, it's a great chance, because, like as you said, data is there, data maturity is super high. I mean, everyone had a data lake project over the last years, right? Yeah. And to really come with a lean and iterative solution, I mean, this is pretty new to that field, right? When you look at the ERP system and planning, I mean, it's not that...
The degree of digital...
You mentioned agentic AI, it was mentioned as well as an example before. It's been sort of a buzzword around now for many. Is it the next quantum leap, or will it really bring significant enhancement for your specific solutions, or just another step of innovation?
I'm completely unimpressed, really fully completely unimpressed. It's like, it's just kind of a way to say, okay, there's a lot of things that these LLMs don't do well, and now we're trying to kind of have fantasy from their investors that they might figure out how to do it at like gigantic costs. But I really think it's the wrong way of starting. You shouldn't start with the technology and then think, oh, how can I make this run? But it's the wrong way of thinking in the first place. Yeah. Right? So you should start with the problem and then come with a solution from that end. And that's why I think this year they will fail with this approach. 2025 will be a failure for this agentic AI, for sure.
I would disagree partially because, I mean, completely agree that not talking about the technology first, but I think agentic has there's one thing. When I had a client, they said, look, that's super cool. Now it feels like there is one more person sitting in the room where we plan, right? And they made it a bit like human, right? There's one more source of truth that we can talk to. And when we think of planning our solution, this is what they have now, a very kind of neutral colleague in the room. And agentic is, for me, it's the idea of really having a name for what we saw before, to be honest, right? For me, it's not pretty new. Like, it's new in the way that they implement it, and this is what I like. Now it's around, for me, agentic is not only technology, it's around application. And for me, this is a very important step. So I see it, yes, it's another buzzword, and there will be tons of startups failing using it as just a technology, but when you play it right, it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, but it's the type of colleague you don't want to have.
Running out of time, I know, Steffi.
Can I say one sentence, because I really want to have an experience is 50% is the peak moment and 50% is the end, so I want to say something at the end. I believe that we will be shifting for those repetitive, easy, simple tasks, like the maintenance plan generation. We will be shifting human labor into software, and I believe that this is a massive opportunity.
100%.
Perfect. We're out of time, unfortunately. Tons of questions still that could be asked, but thank you so much for sharing your insights, where I actually today adds tremendous values at very basic industrial applications. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.